This is your A Good Man is Hard to Find post-lecture. This is to be seen after you've read it. So let's talk. Didn't see that coming, did you? No, actually there's a little bit of evidence for that. Now, let's go ahead and talk about, first off, the grandmother. So much like the mother from Good Country People. So much like her, especially in how she talks and kind of discusses, common people. Very elitist, not very nice or understanding about what she considers the common people, maybe perhaps the uneducated. And what we get from the get-go is a headline of the misfit had escaped from prison or what have you, or fleeing the authorities, and headed down the same way they were. And that should be a pretty good indication that you'll be running into those characters. It really is. That is something that a lot of writers do. Something that you should consider doing, perhaps, just to work on some foreshadowing skills. And it's something that, if done well, can really pay off. It really, really can. So hopefully that you'll take that into consideration whenever we get to writing your short story. Now, a couple things. First off, let's continue to talk about the grandmother. And you can't talk about the grandmother without talking about those grandkids. God, they were annoying. I mean, really, really annoying. Kicking on the back of the seat because they wanted to go somewhere and see something, and the next thing you know, they get in a crash, But the grandmother's just like, what was it that she said? She said, back in her day, children were more respectful of their parents and of their native state and everything, and yada, yada, yada. Just one of those things where, back in my day, we had respect for our elders and blah, 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 but these kids were really bratty. Really, we don't feel a lot of good things for them. We feel really annoyed and think, man, God, they just need to die. Like we say with a lot of, movies, like, man, I wish they would die, especially in horror films. A really annoying, dumb person that almost always lives towards the end is like the second to last person to be killed off, and we just really want them to disappear. Same thing with this right here. We really don't like the kids, and then whenever it happens, we are just mortified with what's going on. But let's not jump too far ahead of ourselves. So they're on this trip. They're on their way. They get in the car wreck after stopping at that one thing where they actually discuss the misfit again. And the purveyor of that shop, the clerk, is talking about that, and the grandmother says, "Well, 'cause you're a good man, that's why you let those people get the gas for free, whatever it is." And he's like, "Well, yeah," and he says so as though it's a deficiency, that as though human kindness is the wrong idea, and I think that says a lot. With we hear that a lot. It's just like, "Oh, that was very kind of you." Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I suppose so. Almost like they're trying to look on the bright side of having done something right, or something kind and compassionate. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But that's an important thing that O'Connor really does to enhance this story. Now, the relationship or the conversations between the grandmother and the misfit are really interesting. I mean, she's there, she's almost trying to convince him, almost trying to convince herself that this is not happening, that she's going to be okay. Even after they start literally marching off members of the family and hearing the gunshots, we know that those people are dead. Like, we know that her grandson is dead. We know that the father is dead. And that, but she's still talking about it. And the misfit they're talking, about all these different things. And how she's like, "Oh, I'm sure you're from good people. You don't have to do this." Like, "Yes, ma'am, I'm from the best people." Like, just kind of baiting her on. Just kind of pushing, like, "Oh, yeah, it's fine. Everything's going to be okay. They're just going for a walk. They'll be fine." Even though we know that the chances that this lady's going to make it out of it are really slim. But it's not the twist that we are expecting and that we get until the very, very end. The misfit and the grandmother, I don't want to say they get along, because obviously they don't, but this is the kind of person he's familiar with. Like, he knows the kind of person the grandmother is, just from talking with her and how he handles her. He's done this time and time again, or seen this kind of person time and time again. And it's really kind of frightening how nonchalant he is about all of this, and how almost convincing he is of all of this stuff that's going on. But let's go ahead and talk about the grandmother and her disbelief over what is happening. You can't do this. You wouldn't kill a lady, would you? Now, knowing that obviously, I mean, her granddaughter goes off and is killed, and she hears the gunshots, but she's still concerned about her, herself. She's like, you wouldn't kill a lady, which you wouldn't kill a lady, you wouldn't do that, one of those things. And like, she's there pleading for his life, and they're still having this conversation. I mean, they have this conversation about Jesus and religion and all of these things in this very nihilistic kind of and dark way. He's kind of agreeing with her, even so much to say that he wishes that he had seen Christ and Christ die and all those things, because then he wouldn't be the way he is. One of those things, seeing is believing. Had he had something to believe and something to hold on to, he might not have gone down this path. But he even says at a couple points that he's kind of punishing the world for the crime that he didn't commit, whatever that it is. He feels that he's been slighted by the world. And so it's kind of like, in The Dark Knight, and Alfred says, some men just want to watch the world burn. That's exactly kind of what's going on here, is that he's going to earn the punishment that he received retroactively, which means I was punished for something horrible that he might not have done, and so he's going to do things that are horrible that he would earn that kind of punishment for. And so it's really kind of an interesting idea, and very, very human. In that kind of philosophy is, if the world's going to treat me so badly, I should embrace what this thing is, whatever I am, whatever they see me as. I'm going to embrace it and just be, if they're going to call me criminal, I'm going to be the worst criminal. If they're going to call me murderer, I'm going to be the worst murderer. And so it's all those things. Now, there's this very interesting moment at the end, the twist that we're talking about here, is whenever she looks at him, and I believe it's almost like it's the first time, and she says, "You're one of my babies, you're one of my own children." And that's when she touches him, and O'Connell says that he lurches back as though he'd been bitten by a snake, and shoots her 3 times in the chest. After that, it is the touch. It is that moment where she says, "I see you, you're one of my babies, one of my own children." She touches him as if looking for, almost as if it's kind of a reunion, almost an embrace, and he just lurches back and bang, 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 bang. I mean, it's very abrupt, and this twist happened just like that. Once again, just turns on a dime, and he just kills her. Just kills her. And then that's when his compatriots, his colleagues, his companions, his other murderers, whatever it is you want to call them, they come back, and he's like, she would have been a good woman if someone had been there to kill her every day of her life. So dark, so horrible. And then he says, he tells, it's like, shut up, Hiram, there is no real pleasure in life. It's such a nihilistic way to live and to feel. Quick question. Those of you guys who don't know what nihilistic or nihilism means, it's a philosophy in which you believe that nothing you do matters. That we're all alone. There's no before, there's no after, there's no before life, there's no afterlife. All we have is this go around, and literally morals don't matter. What you do doesn't matter, because the world's going to keep spinning and nothing you matters. Now, personally, I believe that is a counter. It's an oxymoronic philosophy to me, simply because it is what I like to call the snake that eats itself. And let me explain. You see, the philosophy of nihilism is nothing we do matters. So literally, if nothing that we do matters, and nothing that anyone does matters, then all that matters is what we do. And hopefully that makes sense to you. If nothing that we do matters, all that matters is what we do. And so that's why that particular philosophy is not very appealing or very logical for me, and for many people. Just because of nothing, I mean, it just shows that if nothing matters, then the every act of kindness is the best thing in the world and is the most pure and wonderful thing in the world. And so that is what matters, is kindness, compassion, that kind of stuff. And so that's contrary to the belief of nihilism. And so therefore it's contradictory within itself. Therefore it is the snake that eats itself. And so, but what we have here is the misfit is very nihilistic. He doesn't really, he's embracing that negative aspect and stereotypes of life and of himself and of his criminal nature, whatever it is. A couple things to tell about real quick, though. While the grandmother's still alive and still pleading, remember she says there's not an ounce of common blood in you. You come from good people. You're a good man. You can't be a good man. Can you or think about how it is to live with peace, that and the other? Once again, kind of convincing herself. Once again, because she's talking about, or the way she phrases things shows about how she believes there's not an ounce of common blood in you, which means she believes that there are those common people, that there are people who exist that are less than her, than what she believes to be good, right, and pure, or whatever it is. I mean, that really is a negative thing for someone to say, even though she means it in a positive way. There's not an ounce of common blood in you. There's not an ounce of lesser in you. And so she's not a very good person, in my opinion. And many of Flannery's, characters are that way. Remember Olga, Joy, a very interesting character. Her mother, very interesting character, but they are elitist, they believe themselves to be superior to others. Excuse me, guys. And so, that shows a lot, and there might be even some aspect of that the misfit kills her for, almost, is that kind of attitude. And in fact, if she just would have kept her mouth shut even, perhaps they would have been okay. Whenever he says, "Lady, I wish you hadn't recognized me." Which she got, a lot of the words of the misfit are written in dialect, they're written phonetically so that we hear the way they are pronounced, and that kind of gives a level of character to the story, because the things that the misfits say are kind of uneducated, really, the way that they are pronounced and so on and so forth. Very kind of, as said in Good Country People, salt of the earth. The uneducated. And so that is something that she's saying, it's like, there's not an ounce of common blood in you. But what if there is? Obviously there kind of is that hint. And so by doing this, she's actually insulting him, even though she might not be meaning to. And whether the misfit is intelligent enough to see that or not, we don't really know. But there's a good argument for it. So some very shocking things in this, of course, that being that these full-grown men just executing these children, wiping out this family, and the grandmother kind of freaking out. You're one of my own babies. You're one of my children. And then bang, 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 3 shots to the chest, and she's dead. That's a heck of a twist. We just don't see it. It just happens very quickly. And then, the twist is there is no pleasure in life. The bad guy wins in this. We don't see that a lot of times, A lot of times there's always a happy ending, even if the hero or heroine does not survive. It's usually at the cost of the evil, of making things right. But here, that's not what happens at all. The bad guy wins. The good guys, if you want to call them that, in this case I'd say the normal guys, die. Just flat out. That's an interesting twist to put, is we don't often see a story where the bad guy wins. And so that's just another twist that hasn't occurred here. So keep those things in mind, those writing conventions, because, guys, once again, what's interesting are the twists are done by the characters. The grandmother gets shot by the misfit. Peyton gets hung by the Union Army. I mean, those are things that are done by characters. And so that's why the twists are so interesting, is that these are people dealing with other people, and they are done. The action creates a reaction that we might not expect, one that we did not see coming. With an occurrence at Owl Creek, it's the fact that Peyton is dead. With Good Country People, it is the fact that the entire family is wiped out. All of them, and the bad guy wins. And so, hopefully you enjoyed the stories. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. What you need to do now, of course, is get started on your quiz, and then you need to do your blog. There'll probably be a supplement, maybe some music, another music video or something like that for you to write on a discussion board with. And then finally, our Unit 3 discussion board, which will have you good to go. And so our very next unit, next week, we will be discussing our actual short story, using these 6 stories as kind of a basis of an examples of us. Now, guys, I'm going to let you know right now, we will be writing multiple drafts of this story. I will be going through them and giving you and emailing you back some revisions I think you should do. And then that's your ultimate grade is your final. Your ultimate grade is that final draft of the short story. So be aware of that and keep some things in mind. But right now, you got work to do. Enjoy, and I will see you next time.